Good Friday afternoon to you, 4 o'clock, time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Browns getting ready for a game they simply have to win. Sunday, 1 o'clock, down in Cincinnati against the Bengals. And some things that will not help transpiring out in Berea this afternoon. Amari Cooper, questionable to line up in that game as he did not practice today. He was injured in practice yesterday. David Bell also not practicing. But the belief is that both of them will potentially be able to play. Cooper officially listed as questionable. Pharaoh Brown, Chase Winovich back on the field. That is good news. This is not great news. Joe Mixon, who missed last week's game due to a concussion, not listed on the injury report, putting him on track to play for the Bengals against the Browns on Sunday. That one according to Adam Schefter. Let's welcome in Jeff Lloyd, Locked on Browns podcast. Jeff, Mixon has missed some time. Samaje Perine has done very well in his absence, so now you probably have a 1-2 punch. If Cooper's injury, and Kevin Stefanski was very evasive when asked about it today, if he's unable to go, that obviously won't help.
No, for Amari, this has been the first basically, glitch we've had. Everything's gone really, really smoothly with him his first season here in Cleveland. Hips are always tricky, especially, when it's, tied to a wide receiver. Obviously, his cutting ability, his route running, all of these things will come into question. He did say he thinks he'll be able to go. But if you look at, the way things have trended for the Browns with guys who don't practice on Friday, most of the time that leads to guys not playing on Sunday. For the Browns, it'd be a brutal loss. David Bell, and even with David Bell, I think he can go, but we're talking about a thumb here. It's kind of an important thing here for a wide receiver to have use of both his hands. You do get David Njoku back. And the thing with this, though, is, with the Browns going against the Bengals, the one thing that has been extremely consistent, and everybody wants to talk about the 4 games in a row Joe Burrow has lost to the Browns, is the Browns continuously run the ball in all of these games. They run the ball well, they get up with a lead, and then it kind of puts Joe Burrow in a tough spot. And then, Myles Garrett gets bigger opportunity to kind of eat here and just, go in. I think it's seven sacks in his last 5 games against the Bengals. He's always been a factor. So, for Deshaun Watson, you want to see the beginning of the relationship with David Njoku, Donovan Peoples-Jones, hopefully, another stride here as he's working with a new quarterback after a great start with Jacoby Brissett. But Amari Cooper, if he's unable to go Sunday, that's certainly going to aid the Cincinnati Bengals, who, don't have the best cornerbacks as it is, and they are missing their best cornerback. But you take Amari out, certainly lightens the load, so to speak, for the Bengals defense.
You mentioned the success Myles Garrett has had against Bengals, well known. Garrett talked about the Browns' approach to this game and how important it is.
Same message. Same, what they say, same stuff, different day. So for us, we can't relax or become complacent with what we've done the last 2 weeks. We still have a long road ahead of us. Every game is a playoff game for us. We don't have an option but to win, and we have to make that decision up in our mind. And just go get it. Like we've said all year, just leave nothing in the tank, leave nothing on the table.
So Jeff, can the Bengals ever shut them down? Myles Garrett against the Bengals has been better than any one single pass rusher against another team.
It's actually funny. If you're like a Browns fan and the only time you watch the Bengals play is against the Browns, you think Jonah Williams is the worst left. Like we've gone through this so many. Why does Jonah Williams play? Why is he the starter? Every time he seems to face Myles Garrett, Myles just has his way with him. And then they have to go to the double team route, and then maybe a double team with a chip. And then the next thing you know, you got a lot of rushers free elsewhere. Sione Takitaki had a sack, forced fumble. Isaiah Thomas had a sack in the first matchup this year. These anomalies happen. You just have a matchup that you just can't ever seem to get right. The Bengals, this week, we're going to change it. We're going to do it a different way. Well, how many other ways is there to do it? And how many times does this guy need to just absolutely devastate you before you say, we're going to make it a little bit more, a little bit more of a bigger consideration that we make sure we're able to take Myles Garrett out of the game. If they haven't gotten the recipe right to this point, my guess is they don't have the recipe. And even if they do, the Browns are smart. What are they going to do? Just start taking Myles Garrett and put him at right edge, or put him on the inside. They know what they're doing. They're smart, obviously. Yeah, but I mean, when it comes to Cincinnati and just playing this team in general, I know people want to argue whether or not Myles Garrett is, the best pass rusher in the NFL. You want to fire up any Bengal game, and then there's your conversation starter, just about how much destruction Myles Garrett can cause.
Well, Joe Burrow was extremely complimentary for obvious reasons of Myles Garrett. Here's Garrett talking about Burrow, the respect he has for his game, and the respect Garrett has for him.
He's trying to butter me up, trying to make me blush. But, I mean, it means a lot. It's a great compliment from a great player. And, I mean, the same can be said about himself and his team. I mean, once he came along, once Jamar came along, that team has gone in a completely different direction. And they're much better for it. And that's what it is at the end of the day, your star player versus ours, and who can take each other out the game. And that's the matchup's been going in our favor, but they have some stars over there for sure. I don't think it's anything he's doing specifically. I think he's just a great player in himself, and I mean, you want to be able to match that same intensity and exceed it. You want to be able to put your stamp on the game, and someone who's playing at that level, a team who's playing that well. I mean, he's playing at an MVP caliber, so just being able to say that we got one up on not only him but them, it's a good feeling.
And Jeff, it sounds like Myles Garrett's a little extra motivated against Joe Burrow, and when he gets in that mode, it's usually a good thing for this defense.
Well, look, just as Myles said, it's greatness versus greatness. When you really think somebody might be that good, what's the first thing you're going to do? You want to raise your play. You want to raise your own expectations of yourself, what your team is going to do. You want to go out there if you feel that this guy and this team is that good. Then you look at it and you view it as a measuring stick. This team is starting to find themselves a little bit differently now with Deshaun Watson in the fold. As his play will hopefully here increase over the next 5 games. It brings you more of a feeling of legitimacy of the product that you have, that you're a part of for this team. Myles Garrett never shies away. One of the things that's most impressive about covering Myles is just the way he speaks. Players, it's certainly changed, and players, certainly know each other more and well better than they did back in the day. And all this sugary sweet stuff is great, but come Sunday for 3 hours, Myles Garrett wants to pound Joe Burrow as many times as possible. He'll help him up at the end of the game. But that's at the end is the goal. And Myles knows that how you defined, or how you play against the best competition. So yeah, he sees this opportunity. He knows he's had the success. He knows this is a left tackle that he has played 100 times and probably knows him as well as he knows himself. Puts you in a spot here for a great matchup between one of the best pass rushers in the league, and of course somebody who deserves every ounce of the MVP talk that he is currently getting.
So this is an ESPN stat to know. Burrow is 0-4 in his career against the Browns, and his last 2 games against Cleveland are among the 3 worst games in terms of total QBR since the start of last season. That's how much of a challenge the Browns have been for Joe Burrow. Having said that, this is a guy that you talk to anybody who has played with him, who he's played for. He is one of the most competitive SOBs there is. So that kind of performance is eaten at Joe Burrow.
Yeah, this has been the thing this week. There's a lot of talk. The Bengals have beaten, the Kansas City Chiefs 3 straight times. Joe Burrow has lost to the Cleveland Browns 4 straight times. Sometimes these numbers don't necessarily tell the whole story at the end of the day. I mean, numbers are numbers. Weird anomalies happen within sports. But Joe, wants that, obviously. Being an Ohio kid, he knows what this rivalry means. He wants to be on the right side of this rivalry. And the other thing is if it doesn't happen this week, what happens when they start facing each other next season, when Deshaun Watson is a heck of a lot more comfortable, when the Browns have made, additions they're going to need on the defensive side of the ball, and basically up their product. So, for Joe Burrow, this is a big one here. I'm sure it's something he hears a lot about. Played in a Super Bowl last year but lost. So I think at the end of the day, the fact that he's not successful against the Cleveland Browns probably isn't holding up everything. But I'm sure it's a conversation that Joe Burrow would love to see end quickly. Yeah,
I would agree wholeheartedly. So the Bengals do get one of their defensive tackles who's good, DJ Reader, back. Didn't play in that game Halloween night. He talked about what makes Nick Chubb such a tough running back.
The way he runs as a back just different. He keeps his legs churning. He's always low. It's hard to knock him off. That contact balance is crazy. The way he bounces in and out of gaps, how explosive he is. I think he's just a complete different back than a lot of guys. You don't really notice it because he doesn't really do too many flashy cuts through this and the third, but he just runs downhill and he gets going. He sees the gaps very well. And he's patient when he gets the ball. A lot of people don't give him that credit. He sets up his block very well.
And Nick Chubb has been almost as good against the Bengals as Myles Garrett.
8 career touchdowns against the Cincinnati Bengals. And this has kind of been the recipe, why the Browns have won as many games as they have. Like I said, they run the ball. What the Browns do well, they always do well against the Bengals. They run the ball well. Their offensive line, nobody gets caught up when they're starting to pull guards or centers. They're able to get to that second level, chip away a linebacker. So Nick Chubb can get to top speed as fast as possible. Myles Garrett, is usually able to make a play or two when the Browns get ahead. When they get ahead, you can start, taking the coverage back a little bit and start letting things up in front of you. Most of Joe Burrow's completions in the Halloween game, most of them were to backs. I mean, there were throws out into the flat because he was rattled early. Certainly didn't have Jamar Chase that day, but neither the Browns didn't have Denzel Ward. So, that was basically a 1-for-1 as far as that. Chase coming back, Ward coming back. This is going to be a nice matchup here, wide receiver quarterback wise. So you want to go out there. You want to get this done because this is normally where Nick sets the tone for these games, and Nick kind of sets the table, and then the defense can go and kind of do their thing. It's been a recipe for a while, and it certainly has worked here now and been very, very successful for this team. I don't think it's going to change on Sunday, and it probably also helps the Browns that Kareem Hunt got back on the right side of running the ball last week. Physical. He was over, I think it was 5.5 to 6 yards a carry last week himself. So the running game's starting to pick back up here. It's December. It's always important that your running game is, hopefully performing at a top level. But for the Browns, why they have to ease Deshaun Watson back into the fold, it's very, very vital for them that they're able to run the ball with success.
Jeff Lloyd from the Lockdown Browns podcast and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Take a little bit more of a look at that Browns-Bengals matchup coming up. Sports4CLE, will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Jeff Lloyd from the Locked On Browns podcast. Time for us to head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey guys, as a huge Browns fan, I never thought I'd say this. I'm also a big Steelers fan, well, at least for the next 4 weeks. If we win out and the Steelers can bring the Ravens back to the pack by beating them twice, along with the Bengals having a tough enough schedule where they could also come back to the pack, the Browns could be playing the Steelers for the division in that last game. Got to have this one, though, against the Bengals. Also, you have to remember the Ravens had a really bad finish to last year, so they could do a repeat. Are you guys with me on this? Go Browns.
Appreciate all the voicemails. Jeff, I think it's going to be awfully tough for them to win the division. If they win out and some things go their way, they could sneak in as a wild card. The division's an awful long shot, though, I think.
The other thing is not just chasing one team, you're chasing two. And even if you get this win over Cincinnati, and Cincinnati, it was the same scenario last year when the Browns went in Cincinnati and won the game. Bengals basically after that, got it all right and went on that long run. Bengals are currently riding a 4-game win streak. And then there is Baltimore, the situation there with Lamar Jackson, obviously, causes some pause and hesitation. But I think we are way too early before we would talk about a Week 18 Browns-Steelers for the AFC North title.
I'd sign up for it without question, but yeah.
Sure.
The main thing is win out, and then as you keep winning, let's see what else transpires. I think there's going to be a couple of things that happen in the Browns' favor with games in the AFC, the wild card teams ahead of them. We'll see. All right, big matchup. Bengals wide receivers. So Kevin Stefanski talked about if the diversity of the Browns cornerbacks helps them line up and defend the really talented Bengals wide receivers.
It does, but also there's some big receivers that play small, some small receivers that play big. So it's really dependent on the receiver, I would tell you. And they have, as you know, some really, really good ones. Chase, we've talked about, is as explosive as they come. Higgins makes big plays down the field, big body, very, very impressive route tree. And then Boyd is excellent in that slot. He's a unbelievable choice route runner. I have a ton of clips of him running choices. AVP was with him in Cincinnati, so a lot of our teach tapes on choice routes are Tyler Boyd because he's very, very good at it. And I think AVP likes him because he went to Pitt.
Jeff, I know this is something that you wanted to talk about. Browns cornerbacks, Bengals wide receivers. What do you think of that matchup there?
Well, I think you just like the way all of it works. Denzel Ward versus Jamar Chase, we've already seen that. Granted, we've only seen it once to this point, and that was in the game. That was in the game in Cincinnati last year. Then you get to Newsome still learning his way in the nickel, but going to get a big assignment, certainly in Boyd. But like the Browns just said, there's a lot of Boyd tape in that Browns facility, so that certainly aids a player like Greg Newsome. And then Martin Emerson, who's been nothing short of fantastic this year, bigger, longer, maybe a little bit better matchup, for T. Higgins. But they will rotate around. Newsome had success against Higgins last year. Ward obviously knows this entire wide receiver room. If you think Jamar Chase is, beating you with slants, maybe throw Martin Emerson on him to beat him up a little bit of line of scrimmage, maybe delay his release. The Bengals receivers, those three guys are excellent. They truly are. But the Browns have put together a really, really strong cornerback unit with their top three. They will have all of them this week. There'll be other details that define the ultimate outcome of this game. But Browns corners, Bengals wide receivers, you kind of have the feeling here whichever group has the better day most likely will end up on the side of the team that wins the ball game.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And the Browns are probably more equipped in that cornerback room to defend those three wide receivers than anybody else in the NFL. So again, I'm with you. Marcus Spears on ESPN's NFL Live talked about this Browns-Bengals matchup, specifically Myles Garrett.
To me, it was so extraordinary that they were able to get to the Super Bowl last year with the way that their offensive line played. And that just shows the greatness of Joe Burrow, these skill position players, and that defense that gets left out of the conversation. But more importantly, they were a straight drop back team. Like the things that we're talking about, what Mina just talked about with Joe Burrow's legs, what we talk about with him taking the underneath against shell coverage, the willingness to run the football, they haven't been doing that. And that's allowed Myles Garrett to take advantage of protection and when he gets those one-on-ones. So now with different elements of this offense, I don't expect Myles Garrett to have the same type of success. Now, with that being said, let's keep this in context. Myles Garrett probably will get home. He probably will make a few plays, but he's facing a different offense with a different approach, which in turn should help the Cincinnati Bengals. But it's still, I believe, is going to be a very good game, an intriguing game because of what Cleveland does offensively as well.
Man, if you're Myles Garrett, it's one thing to get home a few times, but Joe Burrow has been sacked 17 times in 4 games against the Browns. And yeah, that's third most by any quarterback against a single opponent since he entered the league in 2020. He's like, please don't make me face the Browns. And Myles
got 9 of them.
And again, Greg, that's kind of more of what we're talking about. Now, let's take a look at this. This is really interesting as well. Common themes in Burrow's losses to the Browns. So the Bengals have surrendered the first score in 3 of the 4 games. Burrow has been sacked, as we just heard, 17 times, and Nick Chubb has averaged 121 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns in the first 3 games against the Burrow-led Bengals. So if you want a recipe for how the Browns do it, that is your recipe. Score first, get to Joe Burrow, have Nick Chubb have success.
If you're the Browns, why are you changing anything at this point? I mean, yes, you're integrating Deshaun Watson, and it's going to be vital that Deshaun Watson's play is improved. From what we saw last week in Houston, 12 for 22 for 131 yards is not going to cut it in being, in trying to beat a team like the Cincinnati Bengals. But it does almost seem like, for everything that's invested in him, what the Browns think he's going to be one day, he could be a big player of this. Nick Chubb has had all the success in the world. The Bengals, it's the same thing for the Bengals defense as it is, for the Bengals offense. They see Myles Garrett, they see Nick Chubb, they know what's coming, and it's not like, they never face him. They face him 2 times a season. They know what's coming, and, up until this point, they haven't shown any way that they can basically stop the bleeding, stop the hemorrhaging that they get from the running game, that they get from Myles Garrett, spending so much time in the Cincinnati backfield. Look, Cincinnati, and it is kind of ironic, though, because at the end of the day, this is one game for the Cincinnati Bengals. It probably doesn't alter, what happens to their team as far as postseason and where they can go, this, that, and the other thing. And the Browns certainly want to be able to keep themselves breathing, through the final stretch of the season here. But these are issues that Cincinnati has had for a while. They just can't seem to, whether it's Joel Bitonio, whether it is Wyatt Teller pulling, getting the linebackers open in holes, and then Nick doing, the impossible, like hurdling guys. The Browns' 2-star players, every time they face Joe Burrow, it almost seems like these guys, step their games up. And at the end of the day, we walk out of there talking about the Browns' 2-star players, not the Bengals' star quarterback.
All right, this is from ESPN. What's at stake in this game? Cleveland's playing right now with a 5% chance to make the playoffs. With a win, it would improve to only 13. That's according to the Football Power Index. From a team that was 3-7 to a 13% chance of making the playoffs, that sounds like it keeps going up and up and up to me.
Look, you don't control your own destiny. So if you don't control your own destiny, the only thing you can do is go out and hopefully, keep stringing together wins. We all understand one more win is probably going to ice it and probably end it here for this team. But they all seem rejuvenated. They know Deshaun Watson is there. We saw some glimpses of what Deshaun Watson can do on Sunday against Houston. We think those things are only going to pick up. This is a team that's probably trending in the right direction. Is it maybe too late? We'll see, but you got to go out every week, play 60 minutes of football. And regardless, the Browns want to close here strong because they have some roster spots to sell to potential free agents, and they want to see the way this thing looks with Deshaun Watson here over the next 4 or 5 weeks, before guys ultimately decide if they think Cleveland's going to be a fit for them in the offseason.
All right, before we let you go, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Oh, hey, guys. Hey, Dave. See all you guys. This is Danielle calling back from Manaway again. I really like your guys' show. I'm just really passionate about the Browns. I love them so much. I just want them to do well, and I just wish we would utilize everything we have more, hopefully, in the future. And I'm very, very happy for Baker. I know he didn't work out here in Cleveland. I think he's a good guy. So I just hope for Baker's sake that he can resurrect his career, because I think he's a good guy. He might not be the best quarterback of all time, but I think he's a decent one. And I just want to let you know that I love your guys' show, and thank you very much. Bye. Hope you have a Merry Christmas.
All right, as always, appreciate all the voicemails. Appreciate it, Danielle. You know what, Jeff? Good for Baker. I do not wish him any ill will whatsoever. He looked pretty good against the Rams. Let's see what he can do.
There's no question. I mean, last night, in the first, I think everybody was like, all right, we're going to put this game on, and it's Thursday night. We'll get to go to bed a little bit early. And if you were around in the fourth quarter, like some people weren't, like Myles Garrett, you saw, Baker just kind of find it. And even still, it went 98 yards with 2 minutes to go. Oh, good God. Because then you thought something bad was going to happen. And knowing he was in a really difficult position, got there, got there late Tuesday night, and, to start, to end up, coming in after the first drive on Thursday. And that's where I don't get this. Like, even if Baker Mayfield's not here anymore, why do people wish him ill will? Why do they not want to see the guy have any success? For me, he was a guy who changed the outlook of this franchise, changed the way this franchise, appeared nationally to everybody. If it wasn't for some of the work Baker Mayfield did, do you think Deshaun Watson in any way whatsoever would have chose to come here to play? No, because we upped the brand here. Good for Baker Mayfield. We'll see how it works out. I mean, it looks like he and McVay, and I know a lot of people have talked about this a lot, that they might be a nice matchup together. But to issue ill will towards Baker Mayfield at this point in time, I just don't get it. I mean, look, the guy had his job taken away from him. He got sent to a situation in Carolina that was absolutely terrible. Everybody knew it wasn't going to work. At least Carolina was nice enough to let him out of it. Maybe go look for, short term for a new home. But it looks like, him and the Rams could be a thing. We'll see away from Matthew Stafford, a little bit older, neck injury. Maybe there's an opportunity there. But for Baker to string together a decent evening for himself, it was great to see.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Hope he continues to do that for the Rams as the season goes on. It looks like he'll get a few more starts, so hopefully he can get things going. Jeff Lloyd, as always, man, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Jeff.
Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend. Take care, Jason.
All right, thanks. Appreciate it again. Jeff Lloyd, make sure you check him out, Locked On Browns podcast. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns. Lance Reisland with a film breakdown of Tony Fields, linebacker who figures to get some opportunities as the season draws to a close. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
Maybe cliche, but there's no I in team. The only identity that matters is we. The collective effort to love thy neighbor is needed now more than ever. The responsibility behind pronouns such as I, me, and mine impact we, us, and ours. So understand that you make all the difference in the team. He, him, her, or she can't disturb our peace, since we control our destiny as student athletes. This is the power of pronouns.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Time for our film breakdown segment. Let's welcome in Lance Reisland, playing dealer at cleveland.com. Lance, the linebacker position continues to get hit with injuries. Sione Takitaki torn ACL, out for the season. Got to see some of a young guy against the Texans. Tony Fields, he looked pretty good.
Yeah, I watched the game. First thing he did very well that I think is very important for those Browns linebackers that he moved forward. So he didn't wait. He didn't wait to get blocked by those big offensive linemen. He did a really good job of moving forward, reacting to what he sees, and kind of be instinctual, which I think is very important. Those guys up front, along with those linebackers, have to continuously really be good at their fundamentals if they're going to stop the run.
The other thing is this is a young guy that has had some trouble staying healthy enough to get on the field and show what he can do. So now that he has the opportunity, I know it's early, but you had to like what you saw, at least in the early going from him.
Well, you look at the Barry drafted linebackers, and he kind of has that JOK, 6 foot. He's about 222. He's very athletic. He's not real heavy. He's very instinctual. He's got to use his hands very well. He started at Arizona, then he went to West Virginia. He was the newcomer of the year. He's a 5th round pick. Like, when you look at him, he's kind of got that JOK kind of athletic ability. He's wiry. I really love his hands. I love his short area burst in terms of seeing what he's going to see. I'm not sure what his 40 is, but when you look at his 0 to 5, it's really, really good. He plays with great energy. He's always around the football. He's been really good on special teams. Not a lot of film on him. I went back. I wanted to see him at West Virginia and see what he did well. I think he's got a really good upside.
All right, let's take a look at a couple of clips that you came up with for him. And again, you kind of mentioned short area, quickness, versatility. Take us through what you see here.
Well, again, he's that JOK type, so he's very, very flexible, very versatile in what he can do. He can play multiple positions, inside and out. I think he's a little bit better off the edge. Again, in the NFL, he's not very big, so he's got to use his hands very well. He's got to use his ability to make people miss, even in a small area. Again, that small area quickness is very, very impressive because he can make running backs miss. He can make linemen miss. He's not going to be able to take these big guys on straight on and just play heavy. The Browns don't have any thumpers inside in terms of just kind of running at those big guys and clogging gaps. So they have to be athletic, they have to be versatile, and they got to play well in space.
And so you mentioned that they're not the biggest of guys, and that leads us to the next clip. That means you better have really good instincts and some explosion, because if you're not big, you better be quick and able to get where you think you need to be.
Well, here's a great look. It's hard to tell in the film here, but it's a zone look, and that center's going to try to get off on him. And what he does, which is one of my favorite part of playing these zone and playing these double teams, whether it's a gap scheme or a zone scheme, is that when you see that double, you cannot wait. If your brain is thinking, your feet are not moving. And he's very instinctual. He plays with great energy. So he believes in what he sees, and he goes. So again, he's going to make the center miss here. The guard center backside, they have trouble getting to him. It's just a zone play. He's going to beat him across his face and make a tackle for a loss. He does this a lot from different positions when you watch his film from his senior year at West Virginia.
And again, you mentioned is not the thumper or the big guy. It's kind of where the linebacker position in the NFL is going, because it's a pass-heavy league, and that kind of leads us to the next clip that you dug up. Really good in coverage and kind of understands the drops that he needs.
Yeah, it's zone coverage here. Browns play a ton of zone. Those linebackers are forced to play hook curl. They're going to play in those hook curl areas with crossing routes, the dig routes, the tight end routes. He's athletic enough to cover a tight end in space, back out of the backfield. He can spy on the good quarterbacks in the NFL that can run and use their feet. He's got really good ball skills. He's got really good spatial awareness. Again, I would say his downside is just his overall size. He's only 220 pounds, which, in the normal world is big, but in the world of playing in the box in the NFL, he's a little guy. So he's got to use all these skills to be successful.
It kind of fits what the Browns are doing, and one of the teams that's kind of designed for is the team that they're going to play on Sunday, the Bengals. When you're looking at those 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and a running back that can catch, you better have guys that can run and cover space.
Well, I was asked about this yesterday. He fits the mold of what the Browns do well. And the reason the Browns have had such success against the Bengals is their matchups. So their linebackers to their corners, they have three guys that can cover their 3 receivers. Now, I think those receivers are going to get open, but the Browns have guys that can compete with them. Cincinnati doesn't like to run the ball right at you. They're not big on really physical double teams. So that kind of hides the D-tackle situation in terms of taking on the double teams. They like to run sideline to sidelines. The Browns do that very well. They don't like to help on Myles Garrett. They like to put Jonah Williams by himself. That's a mismatch. So the Browns match up very well on both sides of the ball with the Bengals. That's why they've had such success.
Is it fair to say, because you look at it, the teams in particular, just look at the AFC. You got the Bengals, you got the Chiefs. Ravens are a little bit of a different animal, but you have teams that have fast wide receivers, multiple of them, 3 of them that like to play 3 wide receivers. Is this kind of a trend where your linebackers are a little bit lighter and a lot more athletic?
Yeah, that 11 personnel is huge in the NFL because you can use that extra guy, that extra tight end fullback type to be a part of the pass game and also be a part of the run game. But that 11 personnel allows you to spread the people out and get that box later so you can run the ball if you need to. The linebackers for the Browns aren't really good matches for the defensive line for the Browns right now. The Browns linebackers, they would be more successful if they had some big, old, heavy guys in there that could take on double teams and free them up. The more they can do that, the Browns defensive tackles have done over the last couple weeks. They've gotten much better in terms of being able to take on those double teams and make those double teams stay because they're fighting them. And the longer they stay on the double team, that allows those linebackers to run free. And that's what the Browns linebackers do very well. They run and get to the football very well.
So it's almost I kind of agree with you. It's almost a mismatch. You either have to go with a heavier defensive tackle or kind of that old traditional thumper at the linebacker spot to handle teams that want to run right at you.
Oh, there's no question, especially if you're in the forefront. So you got the guys on the tackle. The defensive tackles are going to be on the guards. They're going to create good double teams with the center and the tackle. So you get those ace double team, which is the guard and the center, the deuce, which is a tackle and a guard. Those guys got to be able to occupy space. And in the forefront, if those guys make 0 tackles, don't get moved off the line of scrimmage, and those linebackers make 10, 12, 15 tackles, they've done their job at a high level. The Browns linebackers right now are guys who like to make plays, which isn't bad, but it's not good if the linebackers aren't thumpers, and that's what they're not getting. There's no ability to stop the run when teams say, you know what, we're going to double those guys, we're going to run right at those small linebackers and kind of get in the way. And for those small linebackers, they don't even have to be blocked sometimes. They can't see what's going on. Those massive linemen are coming at them. So, I think the Browns are going to benefit if they can get a guy or 2 inside that can just occupy space and let those linebackers run free.
Lance Reisland, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Lance.
As always, thanks for having me.
All right, Lance Reisland with the film breakdown, Tony Fields. Make sure you check him out, plain dealer, cleveland.com. Always really good stuff. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We turn our attention to the Cavaliers. 3rd best record in the Eastern Conference, best home record in the NBA. Sam Amico joins us. Sports4CLE. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We turn our attention to the Cleveland Cavaliers. They will host the Sacramento Kings, Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse tonight. J.B. Bickerstaff talked about how Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell have been playing together and working off of each other.
I think they're playing, just more aggressive basketball. I think early on they wanted to help each other and wanted to play together so much that, they were a little bit too passive or too unselfish is probably a better word. But I think they've realized that the more aggressive they are just to make the right basketball play, that's going to help the other one. I think it's been great the entire year that it has never felt like a your turn, my turn type of thing. And I think that was, what we were trying to avoid. And I think they both bought into that. But I think they're now more comfortable being their aggressive selves, and that's helping each other out as well.
With that, let's welcome in Sam Amico, hoopswire.com. And Sam, that's a really interesting point. You want him to look at, okay, this guy can't cover this. Let's keep doing it till they change.
Yeah, it's, when you have two all-stars in the same backcourt, two guys who are going to handle the ball a lot, it's a delicate balance sometimes. Because, it can get confusing. As we heard JB say, is it my turn to shoot now? Is it my turn to make a play? Is it my turn to create? And, of course, at the beginning of the season, Garland was missing. So it was always Donovan Mitchell didn't have to worry about it. So then when Garland came back, you kind of saw them, as JB alluded, kind of being a little bit too unselfish and giving the ball to the other guy to make the play too often. But now it seems probably within the last couple of weeks, they've seemed comfortable just being themselves and playing together as well as with their other teammates.
Yeah, and that's why, when we talked, it's kind of a work in progress, and it will continue to get better. But, man, Darius Garland has been really good at home at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. Take a look at the numbers. 28.4 points, 8.7 assists, 1.6 steals per game, 52% from the field, almost 49% from three-point range, 86% from the free throw line. And it just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah, the thing, all those, obviously 28, almost 28 and a half points a game at home. What really stands out is that three-point percentage. You see Garland shooting the three at home in Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. You almost expect him to make it every time. And, the fact that he makes it half the time is pretty doggone impressive. So, typically more players are obviously more comfortable playing in their own arena. You really see that with role players, but sometimes in the case of a superstar, Garland's pretty good on the road too, but just taking it to another level at home really is pretty remarkable the way he's gone about that.
Well, we have talked a couple of times when we've been on the show. Important for the Cavs to defend home court. So take a look at this note. Cavs will go for their 8th straight home win when they face the Kings tonight. And the Cavs are an NBA best at 11-1 at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse this season. And again, if you split on the road, you win them at home like that. Now, they're not going to be able to lose, 1, 2, 3 games all season at home. At least I don't think they will. But that's why you want home court advantage come playoff time.
Right. And that's why it's so important now is winning these home games now, so that if it does come down to a game 7 in a playoff series, well, guess what? We have the better record because we've done so well at home and taking care of most of the business away from home. So game 7 is now going to be at our place, and that's always vital when you look at playoff series throughout the years. And more than anything, if you're the Cavs, if you get into a nice groove, they have a decent homestand, have had a decent homestand, you get into a nice groove in that, which they've done, then you feel more confident playing basketball anyway. Wouldn't matter whether it's home or the road. And being at home, the nice thing about that is you can get a sense of cohesiveness, and you take that with you in road games and helps you play better on the road. So I'll tell you what, 11-1 at home. They haven't always looked great at home. They've looked pretty good, but they didn't look great against the Lakers when the Lakers lost Anthony Davis the other night. But they took care of business at home, and that's what really people look at, and what counts is what your final record is as you're going into the playoffs.
Yeah, and keep in mind, a young team, but if you can win, if you find a way to win when you aren't playing your best basketball, that's the sign of a team that's going to win later in the year as well. And the Cavs are finding a way to do that in some tight games.
Yeah, and then, big key to that is having guys like Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. And, we saw Jared Allen the other night against the Lakers in the first quarter doing his best Larry Bird imitation, going 10 of 10 from the field early in the first half there. And in his first game back, really making a difference. So just the fact that they have so many weapons, it's not just the all-stars, the Garlands and Mitchells and Mobleys and, Jared Allen and those guys. It's you're also getting productivity and the capability of guys such as even Jetty, Karis LeVert, Kevin Love when he's out there and healthy, Dean Wade when he's out there and healthy, occasionally Isaac Okoro. These guys will all be able to step up, or have shown that they can step up and get you a 15 to 20 point night if it's necessary, and at times it is necessary. So they've really shown a lot of balance and just a lot of cohesiveness. And you factor in, Dave, that Ricky Rubio hasn't even come back yet, so they're probably not playing their best basketball yet. But here they are, in third place in the Eastern Conference.
All right. So as far as tonight goes, Kevin Love has been ruled out. Donovan Mitchell listed as questionable, although Chris Fedor also tweeted earlier today he was not seen at shoot-around. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Sam, it's the Kings tonight at home. Then they add the Thunder tomorrow. So a back-to-back. How important is it for them to do what they should do and beat these two teams?
It's even without Mitchell and the Kings, obviously under our old friend Mike Brown, have been playing extremely well, looking to make the playoffs for the first time since 2006, which was before the invention of the iPhone. So it's been a while for the Kings. Those are the teams that you should be able to beat at home. The Thunder playing very well on the road, and one of the NBA's most pleasant surprises. And they've got some good players there, so you can't overlook either one of these teams. But you have a short little Dallas trip or Texas trip coming up next week. You want to take care of these games and take the pressure off you for having to win. A couple of road games next week. That takes off a lot of pressure and keeps you in the race and in the hunt for the Eastern Conference, for first in the Eastern Conference.
All right, before we go to break, Ricky Rubio was cleared for 5-on-5 practice. He's been assigned to the Cleveland charge. I know you wrote about that, kind of explaining it. What is behind that move, and what does it mean?
It's kind of becoming the trend in the NBA these days. We saw the Bucks do that with Chris Middleton. Players who are rehabbing will go down to the G League to continue to rehab and practice, just to get in some more reps, since they can't play in NBA games. Ricky Rubio's not ready to play in NBA games. This gives him an opportunity to go in, get some more reps, work with the younger guys, and just get used to being on the court again. But, the sign of that is he's probably getting pretty close. You hate to say real close, but pretty close, because generally when you start practicing with your G League team, when you start doing 5-on-5 as he is doing with the Cavs, that means, they're just trying to get you into basketball condition at that point. And the injury, in this case with Ricky Rubio being a knee, is probably ready to go. It's just a matter now of being in NBA game shape, which can take a few weeks. And the Cavs are going to be cautious. JB Bickerstaff alluded to that. We want to be extra cautious with him because obviously it's more important to have him ready to roll in the second half of the season than it would be right now, especially with the fact that the Cavs are playing so well right now without.
Yeah, and think how they played with him last year. So that is a huge addition to this team if Ricky Rubio gets healthy and can get back to what he was doing a season ago. Sam Amico and I can step aside, take a quick time out, other side of the break. JB Bickerstaff talks a little bit of chemistry. We'll look at where the Cavs stack up in the NBA rankings as well as how good their defense has been. Sports for CLE. Be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Cavs with Sam Amico from hoopswire.com. JB Bickerstaff talked about getting the chemistry built with this year's Cavs team.
It's hard, and I know we like to quantify things, but you don't know. And anybody who does tell you they know is lying to you. You don't know how chemistry is going to happen. You don't know how many games it's going to take, how many practices it's going to take. What you know is it takes shared experiences. They've had, more shared experiences, and still, to be honest with you, this group hasn't had enough shared experiences to tell you that this is as good as it's going to be, or that pairing is going to be as good as it's going to be. You think about, the injuries that they've sustained, the injuries that Jared's had. This group is still working to get to our final product.
And Sam, it again appears like they got a bunch of really good guys who really like playing together, which is not always the case in the NBA.
That's the first step for sure. Having teammates that you like and feel comfortable out on the floor with. I think that we've seen you can't just wave a magic wand and put stars together and have it work. The Brooklyn Nets probably one example. The Lakers are another. You have to have your stars complemented by role players who not just know their roles, but also fit alongside your stars. And JB's right. You never know. You never know until you see them out there on the court playing together, practicing together, and just, seeing what kind of comfort levels they have. And he's right. He's not the only one that I've heard say the Cavs probably aren't playing their best right now. They could get better by that. That's what they mean when they say that. This team still has, even just this season alone, probably has a ceiling because really they're still kind of getting used to each other after 25, 26 games. Sometimes it takes teams, a full season. So the fact that they're playing well and really seem to enjoy each other, that speaks volumes because it's so early in the season. And a big reason for that too is Donovan Mitchell and his personality just really is a guy who's constantly lifting up his teammates, has just fit in seamlessly because he's just really such an all-around good guy, and it really is rubbed off on their teammates. And again, we go back to Ricky Rubio. He's a guy who cures a lot of ills because he's a kind of a glue guy on the court. He's one of those guys who's always lifting up his teammates, and even when they make a mistake, he's kind of like the good cop. The bad cop, good cop, bad cop scenario. He's like the good cop in that situation who is always, look, you made a mistake, let's move on, you're doing great, and Mitchell's the same kind of guy. So when you have those type of players, Dave, the sky's the limit eventually.
Yeah, and Mitchell, the more you hear him talk, it's like, man, this is not only can he play, he seems like a really, really good guy. So I'm with you. All right, before we let you go, NBA power rankings. This is from CBSSports.com. Celtics 1, Pelicans check in at number 2, Bucks 3, Grizzlies 4. The Cavaliers check in at number 5 in the NBA, 3rd in the Eastern Conference. Donovan Mitchell continued his excellent season, averaging 33.3 points on the week, 43% three-point shooting. Again, questionable tonight against the Kings, but he's been as good as advertised. And you know, that again, every time you hear him talk, he represents himself really well.
Donovan Mitchell's probably been better than the Cavs had even hoped at this point, or were expecting. He's really helped them to get to another level, you know. And again, Darius Garland's been great. You have to factor in the idea that they still have to get used to not just playing with each other, but everybody getting accustomed to playing with a next level star like Mitchell. So that takes a little bit of time. It's funny because my buddy and I were talking the other night, like, who are the teams in the NBA that you would consider better than the Cavs right now? Well, you know, I went with the Celtics, the Bucks, and then I kind of got stumped. I mean, the Suns, you could make the case that they're a little better. The Grizzlies are a nice team. The New Orleans Pelicans have been playing very well. They're not better than the Cavs, though. So, I mean, you know, despite this being a rather new team, Dave, they may be, I would say they're without question top 5 in the NBA, maybe top 3 right now.
And we'll take that as the season goes. As always, great stuff. Appreciate it. Sam Amico, thanks very much, Sam.
All right, Dave, thanks for having me. We will chat at you soon.
Sounds good. Sam Amico, make sure you check him out, Amico hoopswire.com. All things Cavs as well as the NBA. All right, before we go, time to head to our Shining Star. Each week, in conjunction with the Ohio Lottery Partners in Education Program, we recognize a role model student from somewhere in the state of Ohio. This week, we head to St. Ed's High School. They won the Division I state football championship last week. One of the reasons why Michael Kilbane, outstanding defensive lineman, a Division I recruit, really good in wrestling, a 4-point student in the classroom. You get the idea. Michael Kilbane does a little bit of everything. Michael Kilbane, the Ohio Lottery Partners in Education Program, is proud to salute Michael Kilbane from St. Edward High School, this week's Shining Star. St. Ed's repeated as Division I state football champs this year in large part because of a dominant defense. Defensive lineman Michael Kilbane was one of the most dominant players on that defense.
Just got to be relentless playing play out. We know that it's a tough physical job. A lot of running in it too if you play it the right way. Just gotta have that mindset. Play every play like it's your last, and good things will happen, as so far they have throughout the year.
Relentless. He's just he's a great kid, strong kid. He plays his position technique-wise so well. And then he's got athleticism, so not only does he have great technique, but then he hunts kids down. If you run away from him, he chases you from the backside, you run to him, he can slant down and make the play, and he gets after the quarterback pretty well.
It often appeared there was more than one defender wearing number 47 because Kilbane was simply all over the football field. Kilbane and his teammate Wyatt Gideon continued the tradition of really good defensive linemen at St. Ed's.
Some decent pass rush moves. I think it was speed to power and power to speed. He does that real well. He uses his hands real well. We've had some. The great thing about St. Ed's is they come back. Mike O'Malley's coaching. My first year. And then you've had Seamus O'Malley and Jeff Petrowski and now Wyatt and Michael and other guys that have just, and they come back and sort of, I think these guys they wear their numbers and they want to be those guys, you know what I mean? And that's the cool thing.
It's just that relentless effort that I and my teammates always give in every play. Coach Pappas, he's the best in the business at instilling that culture into us. And we call it loafs. Like, everyone's motivated not to loaf, because if you loaf, then you're going to get yelled at in film and everything. But another thing is he just builds that character in us that we got to play for our brothers and everything. So we just try and make every play that we can and play every play like it's last.
In the classroom, Kilbane has above a 4.0 GPA. He had more than 25 college scholarship offers and decided to attend Northwestern University next year.
I really just feel like it was just the best option for me. Many great schools that I built great relationships with their coaches. Really thankful for all those opportunities. But I feel like Northwestern just fit me both as an athlete, student, and person. I feel like that just was the best option for me.
How important are grades, and what do you want to study there?
I want to be go into something with business, but grades are really important to me. My parents, they've really just it's been a big thing in our household. I'm competitive with my sisters with it, and brother too, because they had really good grades in high school too, and I try to emulate that in the same way that they did.
When you talk to Michael Kilbane, you realize family is very important to him. It pushes him to excel in another sport, wrestling, where he's also one of Ohio's best.
My goal is to win a state championship. Didn't complete that last year, took fourth heavyweight. But I've been doing it since I think kindergarten. I have cousins, one was a 3-time state champ, national champ in high school. So it's really been a big thing in our family for many, many years, and I feel like I just want to be the next guy in our family to be that great wrestler as well.
If you get the idea that Michael Kilbane personifies a lot about what is good about high school sports, you'd be correct. And this story about something that happened with the Eagles' rival St. Ignatius during the regular season says it all.
A story about him, after in our first Ignatius game, he hit the Ignatius quarterback Papish, and he sent him a note after, just making sure he was doing okay. And his dad, I actually saw Papish's dad in the parking lot last week, and he said, I want you to know, Michael Kilbane sent him a note, and he thought real highly of him. So I think that sums him up. He's relentless, but he does it with class and plays football the way it's supposed to be played.
If you know a student who deserves recognition, we want to hear about them, and you can nominate them completely online. Go to OhioLottery.com. Find the About section. Click on Partners in Education. There you will see links to nomination forms. Nominate that student as an academic all-star, and they could end up being featured as our next shining star. Well done, Michael Kilbane. Congratulations to him and his Eagle teammates, back-to-back Division I state football champs. That'll do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here Monday at 4 o'clock. We'll talk plenty about the Browns and Bengals game. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you Monday at 4.